Let's explore how beginners can easily master meditation. This evening's lesson is drawn from a good-hearted question found on Reddit. The individual wrote, "How does one meditate? How do you specifically meditate? Do you focus on the natural flow of breath or breathe deeply during a meditation? Please let me know. It'll go a long way for me." My friend, I am happy to help you out. Let's start with broad brushstrokes. Within a few years of Gautama's enlightenment, people started getting confused about how meditation works. Part of that is because language is inherently confusing. And part of that is because of Sturgeon's Law. Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything sucks, and not in the fun, tingly way. So what happens is we are faced with a dichotomy that 90% of people, including meditation teachers, tend to be defined by yang or patriarchy. They tend to be like the Buddha's cousin, Devadatta. They tend to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel. There are many people like this, many people who are very sanctimonious like this, but they're not peaceful, they're not joyful, they're not loving, they're not happy. There is a minority who are described as being yin or described by matriarchy. They follow in the footsteps of Gautama, the Buddha. They tend to be flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. And so this is our fundamental litmus test. There are so many books on meditation. There's so many meditation teachers. Sadly, the most efficient way of testing a teaching is really clunky and it's inconvenient. And here's how it works. You receive a teaching and you apply it for at least 5 minutes once every 12 hours or so. After seven consecutive days, notice your results. If you become so cranky that people call you Little Darth Vader, then perhaps this fellow isn't the one for you. You want to use techniques that help you to become more and more flexible and loving and rational and laid back and egalitarian and lucid and cooperative and kind. You want to use techniques that help you to become the person that your dog already thinks you are. So let's start with what meditation is not. If we try to actively concentrate and actively analyze, we will wind up utilizing certain neurological components such as the medial prefrontal cortex or the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex. In the short term, over-relying upon our prefrontal cortex will cause our amygdala to light up. This lumpy thing at the bottom of our limbic system functions as the seat of both aggression and anxiety. If we persist in our over-reliance upon our prefrontal cortex, we will exhaust it and we will begin to present with symptoms of depression. All those three attributes sound miserable. Anxiety, anger, despair sound wretched. I don't think it's worth it to sit on the floor cross-legged if all you're going to do is become more miserable. Here's some good news. There is a part of the central nervous system that is evolved specifically to help us chillax. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we access our sympathetic nervous system, which is found in the middle third of our spinal cord. This sympathetic nervous system has evolved to help us perceive, but in a very specific way, to help us perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly, which is the opposite of concentration, which is the opposite of active analysis. So, if that's the case, and we're not supposed to concentrate upon anything, not even our breath, then what are we to do with our breath? We can treat our breath the way a piano student treats their metronome. When we notice our body breathing in, without controlling the depth or the duration of the breath, we can silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. When we notice our body breathing out, we can silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease. Now, let us take our next few steps into the shallow end of the swimming pool of meditation. Every time we inhale, we are wired to perceive sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We're also wired to perceive emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. We're not computers. We're not digital. We're squishy animals. Our brains are analog. And so we perceive spectrums of phenomena. Everything from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. That can really seem overwhelming at times. I'm not going to lie to you. But here's the good news. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, whether we mean to or not, whether we feel it or not, we are wired to automatically access our parasympathetic nervous system, which is found in the lower third as well as the upper third of our spinal cord. That upper third including our reticular, please forgive my pronunciation, our reticular activation system. I like to call it a brainstem because frankly, this kind of looks like a mushroom to me. Maybe it's because I'm hungry. Brains. Anyway, every time we exhale, our autonomic nervous system, our parasympathetic nervous system is wired for both to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. So here's the cool thing. We don't have to force the perception. It's already hardwired into us. And we don't have to force the release. That's already hardwired into us. Well, if that's the case, why sit on the floor cross-legged at all? What's the deal with that? Glad you asked. There is a caprice of evolution. As our brains got bigger and bigger and bigger, they became klutzier and klutzier and klutzier until they became kind of like Urkel. Now, Urkel's clever, has a heart of gold, but he sure is clumsy, isn't he? Similarly, like a tipsy bull in a china shop, our brain wants to help, all its subsystems, but it's all elbows and knees. But here's the cool thing. When we ask our brain to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during the inhalation, it begins to effortlessly cooperate with the sympathetic nervous system down here. And when we invite our brain to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb ease during our exhalation, the brain effortlessly cooperates with our parasympathetic nervous system. And you have something that works really, really well. I'm a big fan. So here's one thing that's really cool. Every time we breathe in, whether we know it or not, we are already wired to generate a vertical traction between our tush and our head, as if we were pulling our head out of our tush. I kid you not. And every time we exhale, we're wired for this traction to relax. And after a week or so, this can become a habit. So let's review. Every time we inhale, we're wired to perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Let's look at this word vulnerably. We never feel quite as vulnerable as when we're naked. Perhaps that is why these two archetypes are depicted without their clothes on. We talked about how when we exhale, we're already wired to release. Well, check this out. Every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during our previous inhalation could feel a little bit less graspable, a little bit less defining. Now let's add some figurative language into the mix, shall we? Every time we relax into our exhalation, whatever we noticed during the previous inhalation could begin to feel as non-graspable as a vast, empty void. Any good English teacher will remind us that a simile is only as useful as it is relatable. So what is a real-world example of a non-graspable, vast, empty void? How about the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although is tantalizing to the eye, is intangible to the hand. So there you have it. This is why these archetypes of meditation are depicted as being translucent and as non-graspable as a rainbow. So, a bit more review. When we ignore our sympathetic nervous system, when we ignore our parasympathetic nervous system, when we over-rely upon our prefrontal cortex and try to actively concentrate and actively analyze, our amygdala lights up and we get really anxious and really cranky. Even if we try to concentrate and analyze compassion, we'll still be cranky and anxious, which sucks. But as I mentioned previously, when we groove with our inhalation and groove with our exhalation, the amygdala stops lighting up. When I say lighting up, I'm referring to studies, fMRI studies, functional magnetic resonance imaging studies. And so what happens is the amygdala stops lighting up, and this area starts lighting up. This thing that looks like a catcher's mitt, this thing that the big kids call the anterior cingulate gyrus, this thing that functions as the hub of our mirror neurons, the seat of empathy and compassion and love. This is why the greatest Dzogchen Lamas of Tibet have insisted that the highest love is spontaneous and uncontrived. Well, it's one thing to feel empathetic, but how are we to know what to say or what to do to best meet others' needs in the most wonderful way? Check this out. Consider, if you will, this gal, the color of a cumulus cloud, who appears to be actively sporting in tantric union. She reminds us of spontaneity. Now, there are many flavors of spontaneity. There is the absence of spontaneity. We might call that contrivance. There is scattered spontaneity that we might experience if we chug 3 espressos in 30 minutes. Oy vey. But there's also centered spontaneity symbolized by her partner, the color of the azure sky, who appears to be savoring the same tantric union passively. And so this centered spontaneity is key for when our choices and our utterances and our deeds flow. With the effortless effort of love's centered spontaneity that is generated by mindfulness and meditation, the seventh and eighth folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path, our life can become more and more like a real or imagined paradise or pure land or vati of a real or imagined Buddha. So I've given you a lot of information, and I look forward to actually practicing with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I've spent about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each sect of Buddhism, and Taoism, and Hinduism, so that you would not have to. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. I think it would be fun this evening to revisit the foundational text of Dzogchen. It's known as the Spaciousness of Vajrasattva. Unless you prefer Tibetan, then it's Dorje Sempa Namkache. It was composed by Prahe Vajra over in the Swat Valley. But in Tibet, he's known as Gorab Dorje. Oh, won't you please chant with me? Whoopsie. Listen, O virtuous one, I will show you the truth of your being. You are and always have been like Vajrasattva, the infinite consciousness, living presence, and creative power of the divine. The vast spaciousness of being always good, the way of liberation for all beings. Beyond appearance and disappearance, and beyond the grasp of the intellect. So that's a whole lot. So we're gonna break this down into bite-sized pieces and contemplate it piecemeal. One moment, if you please. So please chant with me. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever awareness we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as non-graspable as Vajrasattva. So let's continue. Let's see here. You are and have always been like Vajrasattva, the infinite conscious living presence, the creative power of the divine. So what do we mean by the divine? We're going to explore 4 facets of what is meant by the divine, and of course that's metaphoric. ALTHOUG, although as we relax into a relaxation, whatever circumstance we might have noticed during or previous inhalation, although appearing could viewed as non-graspable as a Buddha's paradise of light. So this is a hot mess over here, so I think what we'll do is adjust the page layout, and there we go. That should be much better. So together, as we relax into our exhalation, whatever body we might have noticed during or previous inhalation, although sensual could feel as not graspable as a Buddha's archetype of light. Together, as we relax into our exhalation, whatever relationships we might have noticed during or previous inhalation, although resounding good feel as non-graspable as a Buddha's mantra of light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever mind we might have noticed during our previous inhalation, although lucid could feel it is not graspable as a Buddha's suitable of light. Now let's go back to the root text and see what else needs. So we've explored consciousness and we've explored divine. That vast spaciousness of being, always good, the way of liberation for all beings. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as non-graspable as the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn. Woof. Okay. The higher nature, Buddha nature, refers to that which we know in the silicon ages. The sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, and anterior cingulate gyrus that make possible mindfulness, meditation, and empathy. So now that we've thoroughly explored the opening passage, let's rest the mind in spontaneous awareness and letting go. Now let's see. Is it Bel Zemu? Bel Zemu. Good evening. All right, so the lesson was in the beginning of this evening's live stream, so you can pull the indicator bar all the way to the left, and that way you'll get this evening's lesson. Every 12 hours or so, give or take, I give first a lesson, and then there's a group practice. So together we're going to chant the first verse of Spaciousness of Vajrasattva. Listen, O virtuous one, I will show you the truth of your being. You are and always have been like Vajrasattva, the infinite consciousness, living presence, and creative power of the divine. The vast spaciousness of being always good, the way of liberation for all beings. Beyond appearance and disappearance, and beyond the grasp of the intellect. So, now we're going to break this down with some more chanting. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever awareness we might have noticed during our previous inhalation. This will be better. Could feel as not graspable as Vajrasattva of light. Let's see, let's find a really good image here. Let's go to Buddhist yoga and to Kuntu Zangpo, and let's go to Vati. Okay, so we're going to hit wrap text behind the text, scrolling up and over to the right. Whoops, that was exciting. Okay. So let's reduce the size of that image. That'll work. Okay, here we go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever circumstance we might have noticed during our previous inhalation, although appearing could feel as non-graspable as Buddha's paradise of light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever body we might have noticed during our previous inhalation, although sensual could feel as non-graspable as a Buddhist archetype of light. So that appears to be a question, so quick like a bunny, I'm going to tap button 8. And let's see here. There we go. Wouldn't light wouldn't exist without darkness? If so, do you believe God is a neutral force? I'm very curious. Okay, so you are very intelligent and you have a lot of creative energy. I'm going to ask you to limit your questions to 4 things. Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or their application. That's the scope of this evening's live stream. So I'm going to add an additional image, this time an image of a 12-syllable mantra. And I'm going to hit the wrap text feature, and I'm going to scroll up. Okay, and I'm going to reduce the size of the image. And reduce it even further. So I shall check to see if make sure that I shall check to make sure whether it fits on the screen or it is decapitated by my big old face. Fabulous. Okay, let's chant. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever relationships we might have noticed during our previous inhalation, although resounding could feel as not graspable as a Buddha's mantra of light. Okay, so I'm going to check for questions. Okay, so I don't see any new questions. So let's continue. And I'm going to add a tikle or syllable, also known as a bija. Oops, that's not a good one. Let's go over here. Okay, let's hit... Let's try this one, see how it works out. I'm going to hit... I'm going to hit wrap text behind text. I'm going to scroll up. Let's see how that fits. Okay. Let's make that a trifle smaller. A little bit more. Perfect. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever mind we might have noticed during our previous inhalation, although lucid could feel as non-graspable as a Buddha syllable of light. As we, oopsie, what's going on here? Okay, let's go over here and hit delete and add another image. And we're going to add an image of the sky. Let's look for S. And there we go. Cowabunga. Let's go for wrap text. And let's do the old drag a Rooney. Okay. Let's see if that fits okay. Yeah, that seems to do the trick. Okay. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as non-graspable as the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn. So this is definitely going to require an edit. Okay, so this is exciting. Well, this is exciting to me. So let's hit, I know what we should do. Let's go over here and grab this bad boy and hit copy. And paste it right here. Let's hit paste. Come on, paste. Let's slide this bad boy over here. And let's go over yonder. And let's hit copy. And let's hit paste. And let's check the image, make sure it isn't too squished. Okay. And let's try that again. The higher nature, Buddha nature, refers to that which we know in the silicon age as the sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system. And enter your singular gyrus that make possible mindfulness, meditation, and empathy. So, quick like a bunny. Let's go over yonder. Grab this boy. Place it over here. And we'll hit paste, and we're going to hit the old wrap text button and scooch this over here. Let's see if that fits. It appears to. And now let's go to the top of the page and try again. The higher nature, Buddha nature, refers to that which we knew in the silicon age as the sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system, and anterior singular gyrus that make possible mindfulness, meditation, and empathy. Now, after all that chanting, let's rest in spontaneous awareness and letting go. Reminder, if at any point you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, please type your question in great detail in the chat window. So, quick reminder if you've just tuned in. As we inhale, we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. As we kick back and watch the antics of mind as it perceives, emotes, intends, reasons, recalls, and imagines. During our exhalation, while we silently and mentally recite the verb ease, we relax into that exact same mind's non-graspable nature. On second thought, before I forget, I should go back over here and throw the word divinity in here. Let's see here. That'll work. Oopsie. Okay, so if you've been hanging out with me, we use the word divinity in this evening's text, and this is my ham-handed attempt to shed some light on what is meant. So let's chant these 4 pages before we return to the silent meditation. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever circumstantial divinity we might have noticed during our previous inhalation, although appearing good feel is not graspable as mood is no paradise of light. Aha. Need a preposition. There we go. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever physical divinity we might have noticed during our previous inhalation, although sensual could feel is not graspable as a Buddha's archetype of light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever interpersonal divinity we might have noticed during our previous inhalation, although resounding good field is not graspable as a Buddha's mantra of light. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever mental divinity we might have noticed during our previous inhalation, although lucid good field is not graspable as a Buddha's syllable of light. Okay, and now let's return to relaxing into spontaneous awareness and release. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void, like the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn. All right, try it again. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we might have noticed during our previous inhalation could feel as non-graspable as a vast empty void, like the infant. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which although tantalizing to the eye is not graspable to the hand. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 2/3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the force be with you always.